Hello and welcome to Heart of the Matter. And it's going to be an interesting one tonight. We got Jay joining us as a guest, which is a wonderful thing. And he has his own website as well. And Jay, I've forgotten what it's called actually. Can you let us know what your website's called again? I think it's the Human Remedy. Is that right?
That's correct. The Human Remedy.
Yeah. Which you deal with sort of alkalinity, sort of products and herbs and all sorts. And yeah, we had an interesting conversation at the weekend, and I'm really glad that you're here joining us tonight. And obviously we have Amed joining me again, and it's an honor to have you here again as well. And I'd say go and check out Amed's work over at his Planetary Intelligence YouTube channel. Putting out some fantastic stuff there, so I recommend that. And also, if you can, check out Jay's work as well, which I've got links for both underneath in the podcast. So welcome the pair of you, and it's an honor to both have you here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. So yeah, do you want to go first, Jay, or should I start? I mean, should we? Yeah, I'll start. Let's see. So I'll share my screen, and I'll just. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's see if I can full screen that. So, in order to acknowledge and freely admit the worth of another, a man must generally have some worth of his own. Arthur Schopenhauer, from his work, The World as Will. All right. So I thought I'll share that, and maybe that could be a talking point in terms of worth. And since we're talking about self and those kind of things we're going to cover today. So any thoughts on that, Jay?
I think it's amazing. You always find out when you see something in others, you already embody that characteristic or something very similar. So that's a very, very powerful quote. It's really good as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, the having self-worth, you can't see the worth in others without having your own worth in yourself. So when people don't have any worth in themselves, they don't see the worth in others or the potential in others either. And you find that a lot when you come across narcissists, because they're worthless. I'll say that straight up. They're worthless people. So they won't see your worth other than what they want to gain for themselves, which is whatever the agenda they're after for their own narcissistic gain. So, but yeah, like when you see an individual, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say something you may notice about people with no worth as well is they externalize their worth. So they don't mean nothing, so they don't see nothing. So they use objects to define themselves as worth, where they're not carrying that with them everywhere. So it kind of defeats the purpose and becomes nothing. So yeah. It's that externalization of worth.
It's like again, it's all part of that. It's working on yourself, and most of it, like sometimes if you come from traumatic backgrounds or traumatic childhoods, that sense of lack of self-confidence, the lack of worth as well, kind of, if that hasn't been healed in you, then that will affect your life in general. Like your whole life will be affected by that, because you'll let in people that will tell you who you are, because you don't know who the hell you are. So they'll come in and use you, they'll abuse you, I'm sure we can all speak from experience here. We've met all these kind of poisonous, toxic people who've come in and usurped your value and usurped your sovereignty or your worth. And it's kind of a painful process, because you have to sit there and you have to go through that abuse for you to learn the hard way, to wake up to yourself and be like, no, just no, just the ability to say no. you know. So yeah, but I thought a good talking point as well would be um, collectives and how the self is in relation to others. You got any thoughts on that? Either of you, Jay?
Yes. You got a famous quote, "You are the people you hang around with." Because ultimately, what I believe and what I've seen and what I've witnessed is we are all out there searching for ourselves. So if we see something that's familiar, just like us, we're going to gravitate to it. So if they mirror us or we mirror them, this is where collectives sort of come from. But yes, that's it really. There's more to it, but that's it. So yeah.
I mean, isn't it? Yeah, it is like a mirror, but that's more in an individual for me than it is in a collective. Because when I find like collectives, they're a mishmash of people who are kind of united under one ideal or like or a philosophy. And don't get me wrong, like I'm cool with collectives as long as it doesn't turn into a frigging cult. If it's a cult, I'm out of there. I don't want to anything cultish or cult-like behavior. I kind of like, I don't want to be part of that collective because I start to lose my sense of self in that. There's a sort of communism about it, if that makes sense. You know, and I think that's the danger of collectives, because you could fall into that sort of craze of everybody thinking the same, and you lose yourself in that.
It kind of dilutes you as well. You're striving towards an idea and you've got everybody else doing something specific. Then if you're reaching for that same target, you'll find yourself doing similar things. It could be something simple as even like recycling. You join something and everyone's recycling, all of a sudden you find yourself paying attention to where you're putting everything, and you do more in the same direction as everyone else will be doing, mirroring. But the idea, I see what you mean with the idea in the collective, that ideas and beliefs, even when God comes into it as well, there's always a collective of people there.
Yeah, it's you know, I mean, from my experience, it's really important, you know, to find your individuation, that path of individuation, and to you know, come with your own ideas and other people's ideas, you know, which is very easy, you know. But once you start on this path, you start to realize, you know, that path and where you're being led, you know, you start to grow more in confidence as you walk away and spend time on, I mean, for me, I need to spend time on my own to find, you know, those inner parts of me, you know. I call it my me time, you know, and that helps me a lot, because I'm drowning out that voice of the collective, you know, unconscious, you know, and stuff. So that helps me.
Reminds me of the hive mind concept and such like that.
Yeah.
Everyone's plugged into the same machine.
Yeah.
Worker bees, all serving the queen, you know. Yeah, which is not the fact. We're not bees. If we're bees, then we'll be bees, and that's the point. And that's when I look at things like communism or any collective madness that goes on in society, especially in the narrative we see unfold day to day. There's always something, you know. Put a sign out, you know. We love you, NHS, for example, and everyone clapping on a Thursday. It's like, well, there's a craziness to that, and people don't see it, and it all means well. It's all disguised in this sort of thing that, you know, you're being helped, and oh, the NHS is wonderful, but I don't see you clapping every Thursday since NHS was about anyway. So why is all of a sudden it's all special? Because there's fear. Is that the only reason? Is that what will bring you together? It's funny how, like, is it love or fear that will bring you together? And when I see the madness, it's always the fear. It's always a form of fear and a lack in people that they come into this collective. And I think it's so important that, like, we are individuals in a collective. Whenever you come into a crowd, like, you are you, and you know that there's a boundary there that you won't go past to lose yourself in the collective. You can have fun in the collective, dance. All right, we're all going to dance. That's cool, you know, because everyone's going to dance. Everyone's dancing as a collective, but everyone's dancing in their own way. And it's unique. And you're expressing yourself uniquely through your body, which is cool because you're not there to entertain others. You're there to dance and let your body move. I'm just talking as an individual. An individual would do that rather than the one that tries to perform and try and look cool in front of everyone, which then you fall into the collective. So yeah, it's a tough one to navigate because, like, when you get into the collectives, you can lose yourself so quickly.
I mean, it feels like most people that are there would be seeking a form of validation, one form or another. Because if you know what you know, and what you know is good, and you know yourself, then there is no need to be there, unless you have a purpose or a mission or a goal to accomplish. If that makes sense. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's another quote, if I may. By the way, I'm getting these quotes from Archaics. You guys have heard of, I mentioned before. Really great guy, Jason Breshears. Interesting man with a very, very harrowing life story, actually, to get to where he is. But anyway, I'm just going to share some of his quotes because I was looking through his video, his recent video, and he was just sharing quotes. He's saying quotes that will empower the soul. So I thought if I share these, it might just kind of inspire a few more sparks in us. So this one is by Oliver Wendell Holmes. A man's mind stretched by a new idea can never go back to its original dimensions.
I feel like I feel that one a lot.
Yeah, same as. Yeah, very powerful, very powerful.
I always say as well, once you know something, you can't unknow it. So that's another one as well. New ideas, new things coming in, opens up a new world.
Yeah,
something. I was just going to say, it just give these things give you a sense of direction as well, which we all need. You know, we need that, and to find our own, you know, our own direction, whatever that is for you, you know, Amed, and for you, Jay. You know, and that's what makes us unique. You know, you know, we might have certain things that might be similarities, but it's when those things come out of somebody that you know, it's them, you know, it's completely them, you know. So yeah.
Yeah, ideas. I mean, ideas are important because ideas is what can change, you know, reality. An idea will inspire you to change your life. Where it's like an awareness of something you never knew was there, and it's someone like a friend helped you shine it out for you because it was always there anyway, or you came to that realization of, wow, how could I not have seen this? And then that has a sort of an amazing sort of unraveling in your life, and it starts to lead you into a new reality and a new dimension, because again, it can't go back to its original dimensions. So obviously you're going into a newer dimension, and that to me is like, you know, interdimensional travel, because reality is all to do with the dimensions of your mind. So when your dimensions of your mind expand, you travel into a different dimension. You know, that's my idea anyway of what I can get from that quote.
I mean, so, the cosmic man. the cosmic man. That's what I feel, you know, from that, you know, because yeah, it's endless. It's endless, isn't it? So yeah, it's great to know that these things come and do their wonderful work in us.
So I wanted to direct this at you, Jay, as well. Health, because inherently health affects psychology, affects your inner mind state, because you obviously work with alkalinity and, you know, the human remedy, and you know, you have been a major influence in my life through everything you've shared about Dr. Sebi's work and the further things you've discovered and been able to crystallize more and more, you know, with the herbs especially that you offer, which are amazing. So I just wanted to see if you can just tell us a bit what your thoughts are about how health relates to psychology.
Well, health and psychology. Let me talk about first what I've noticed from people taking the herbs and making themselves more alkaline. So they're in a stressful state. They keep getting stressed because things are coming at them in life and they can't really handle it because they can't think fast enough or process it fast enough. So they feel out of control, and that leads to stress, it leads to anger, throwing things away, and just pure out panic. But then once you're feeding your body, because your body has a mind of its own. You've got the subconscious, unconscious, all these things. So if you feed your body everything to keep it fed, calm, relaxed, and you get rid of that acidic state of chaos, poison, stress, and you bring yourself alkaline, then if a big challenge comes out at you, then even if you can't figure it out, your body will automatically figure it out. So there's no stress. So all mental illness and panic and nervousness and anxiousness is all literally the body wanting something or needing something. And if you're not supplying it, you're supplying yourself with everything you need, then your body kind of collapses and it feels powerless. And then you panic, whether it's breathing, whether it's anger, there's so many things, swearing as well, the language you use. So one story that is amazing as well from Dr. Sebi is one of the things he done was there was a woman, she was completely psychotic. No one could save her. She would shout, she would see stuff, she'd be crazy, all this stuff. And he worked with her for a bit, emptied her colon out, colon clean, started renewing the body. And all of a sudden, her psychosis, which she's been taking medicine and everything for, nothing was working. But her psychosis was gone. She couldn't panic. She couldn't see all this stuff. And it turned out that because she was in Brazil location, she was eating a lot of cassava. And the cassava was eroding her nervous system, which is acidic as well. And through the removal and renewal of the cells, her illness that she's had for years and years and years and years and years was gone in a matter of months. And then, so yeah, in terms of health and psychology, if you don't have the right health, you won't be in control. And being in control ain't literally actual control. It's just being able to handle things that come at you. Whether subconscious, unconscious, everything needs to work. Everything's a system. So that's kind of my take on it, where health has a huge part to play in anyone suffering anything psychological. Because even a simple thing is you can take certain things that make you relax. And when you're relaxed, you don't have this mental issue no more. Changes your mind state, changes your body. But then when you become unrelaxed, all of a sudden kicks back in. And the things that relax you go into the mouth, even if it's smoke, even if it's food. So yeah, that's my take on health. Yeah.
I mean, we all psychologically also speaking, because we have a lot of comfort comes through the mouth, right? Because it inherently comes out as when we're born as babies first thing we have is an oral fixation, right? The mother's breasts, the milk, the survival is all based on the mouth. The mouth takes in everything, even as a baby toddler growing up. He's always putting stuff in his mouth, or she's always putting stuff in her mouth to try and discover what this object is. They'll grab a phone or whatever and put it in their mouth,
Yeah.
you know, because they don't know what it is. So they're discovering everything with their mouth. So obviously we have a lot of our comforts come through our mouth. So, so for example, where a smoker, being an ex-smoker myself, like there's an oral fixation, there's a comfort found in smoking a cigarette, the action of putting something in your mouth. There's a comfort found in eating food, and a lot of food as well. The more you eat, there's a sort of and I think they call it comfort eating. It's a psychological condition where you repress emotional trauma or childhood trauma through eating lots of food constantly to gain comfort, to feel full and whole and warm. And, you know, we all want to be blanketed. We all want to be told that it's going to be okay, you know, because life can be a terrifying thing, because, you know, when you realize your existence is a finite one, and if you haven't done the spiritual and inner work, the world and life can be, like I said, it is a terrifying place, and it can be a terrifying thing, because those haven't dealt. So I wonder why, but yeah, why do we always turn to this mouth fixation? You know, why are we so fixated on finding the comfort predominantly through the mouth?
I feel like that's our major input to our system. So even if we're just tasting something, that instantly sends messages to the brain, the belly, everything. And the mouth has the power to do that. It's so close to your brain. So are your eyes. But then again, it's all connected because you see, smell, and taste at the same time. So yeah. Part of who we are.
It's part of who we are. Yeah. I mean, but that's the thing about the mouth and the health. Again, the health of psychology, like you said, about, you know, what we're putting into our bodies affects our psychology. And I totally get that for sure. Whatever it's the input output sort of thing, right? So whatever you're putting in, like you said, it's like acidity creates an acidic environment, which creates acidic thoughts, which creates acidic attitude towards life in general, which, you know, acid is likened to hell and alkaline is likened to heaven. So it's like, what side of the spectrum do you want to be on?
Yeah.
I know we're always told to be in the middle, which is 7, 8, but that's like a minimum requirement rather than that's where we should be.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. And when you look at air, pretty much 90%, you can say 99, but I'll just say 90 for now. 90% of the people that are ill, so either psychologically or actually physically, you test them, they're acidic. They're all acidic because their body, acidic is a form of erosion. And if you're eroding from the inside out and things are growing in your body that are meant to, and you've got things living in your system which ain't supposed to be there, then even me, I would be a bit lost or disconnected. You know, it's like things can host you, even parasites can host within you when you're acidic. And if they're depositing things in your body because you're feeding them crap, then is your mind really yours? If they're able to signal changes electrically in your body? Who knows? But yeah, that's what it's about.
Sure. I mean, parasites in people. I mean, I've seen parasites, people purging parasites. I mean, you can go online on YouTube, people show you the stuff that comes out of their bodies. I mean, worms, like these black kind of strange looking worms, and you're thinking, what? How is that? I've never even seen a creature like that before. That's like, that does it even exist in nature? I mean, it looks like some sort of, I don't know, it looks like something out of that's alien, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting about parasites as well, how they affect, because obviously acidity creates acid body, which creates parasites, entities actually possessing you. And that goes into, I think one thing you suggested earlier, Jay, which was higher intelligence, the influence of relation to consciousness and unconsciousness. And part of that is, you know, entities and what we perceive as demons and things like that. You know, because there's people that believe demons actually exist, and then there's demons as thought forms, as egregores that we create. We create demons, and we create these thought forms, which become these things we call demons.
Yeah. Within ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also just even something simple as paying attention to somebody speaking in a ill manner, paying a lot of attention to it creates it within yourself, because when they speak and you hear it, if you say it in your own head, you're saying it yourself. So the more you listen to things that are twisted, so to speak, the more you're feeding it within yourself and your own psyche. So you've got to fast from all of that negativity.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about fasting, like the importance of fasting, because you know, it's in a lot of traditions, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's your experience of being of fasting?
Well, I always liken it to back in the days where there was no cities, no man made this, no man made crops, no man made nothing. If you're simply just walking, and nature is around, and you're picking, tasting, eating, and you get used to what you can eat and what you can't, you'll notice, number one, if it was back then, everything is alkaline. So you'd have a little bit and you wouldn't have to eat, or you'd have water and you won't have to eat because you've already got the sustenance you need. So you won't be out there seeking to eat. You won't be like mealtime, and you won't be like this and that. So when you do fast, something you'll notice as well is what people call hunger is simply the belly trying to shrink itself smaller. So you have to eat less. But if you associate that with eating, that gets you in the cycle of dependency. Every time your body wants to push everything out, you're putting more in. So fasting for me, as well as a spiritual practice or lifestyle, is one of the most healthiest things you can do for your body, giving it a break from constantly processing everything 24/7. Giving it a break, allowing your belly to relax. Once your belly's relaxed and your guts, inflamed guts, if you're acidic, starts to shrink, now your energy in your body can focus where it's needed. Even your heart, if there's something in your heart that needs to clear, once your colon's down, it can deal with your heart, it can deal with your mind, it can deal with your stress levels. There's a lot of psychological healing as well when it comes to fasting. Although it may be, for some people, maybe very painful. Well, not painful, but quite hard. There's so many benefits. So many. And I feel like even in anyone's life, they owe it to themselves to fast or try to fast, because they've ate every day. So out of the how many days you're alive, so many, why not fast for a little while?
Yeah, because I was just going to say something about that as well. It's like the program that we're given is, oh, it's good to eat 3 times a day, you know, and all this stuff, you know, when actually, I'll be honest with you, you know, I most probably only eat a couple of times a day, you know, but I have done one time a day, and that's been it, you know, and gone through right round to the next day every now and again. So yeah, so I don't believe all that mumbo jumbo, as they say.
Yeah, the main thing about that is they say eat 3 times a day. But the real question is, what are you eating?
Yeah, as well.
Wake up in the morning, drink cow's milk from from God knows where, with some wheat starch, with sugar and metallic particles in there. Start your day like that, and you'll realize it's a fog over your mind. So then when you go through the day, you're starving because you just robbed yourself of minerals. Now you're going to eat more. And then what you eat next makes you even more hungry because you're not eating what you need.
The right things, that are needed and stuff. Yeah.
That's
So
it.
because we was talking about this the weekend, wasn't we?
Yeah.
And stuff a little bit and stuff. We touched on these things, Whereas for me, sugar is a bad one, and I'm glad I've cut that one right out now. And I'm still working on things and stuff and all that. It's just a when you've been so used to eating in a certain way, and then you start to hear and understand, it's helping me, and realizing that, I'm having to listen to my body now, because I know what my body's telling me, and I'm having to start to listen to it, because if I don't listen to it, I'm going to become quite an unwell man. I don't want that, so and it's absolutely tremendous, the stuff that you're sharing, Jay, and I'm thankful for that. It's great.
That's another thing that you mentioned as well, is you're listening to your body. When you do start fasting, your body speaks louder. Okay,
that's interesting.
So when you eat something you don't like, your body tenses, your belly tenses and says, I don't like this. So fasting is another way to bring back your body's intelligence, which is pretty good.
Wow.
Another thing as well is culture psychologically has a huge part to play in everything that goes in the mouth, which could also lead to the type of illnesses people get as well. I haven't looked too much into it, but maybe there's like a specific type of people that are narcissistic based on their diet, which causes separation in their psyche. That's something I need to look into, actually, but it's out there. I'm going to take a look.
Well, the Western diet was mostly dictated by the Rockefellers back in the sort of late 20s, early 30s. The whole bacon, sausage, and egg, and eat your whole, that whole diet, that staple diet that we always hear about. The sausage, eggs, and all that big breakfast idea. That's everywhere in the West. You can't escape it. Have a big breakfast. Start your day with a big breakfast. That's the worst thing to do, because you've slept 8 hours, and then you instantly bombard your body not only with acidic foods, but you fill it so much that it's just woken up. You didn't even give it a chance to gently wake up and activate the stomach to get it ready. They say always eat fruit when you first break your fast. When you're sleeping, you're waking up. That's the last thing you want to do, is stuff your stomach and expand that stomach lining.
So that's where all your energy goes. All the energy to process the day goes to the belly. So then you're not processing nothing. You're like, oh, I'll deal with it later. You avoid things. You just I like simple things. I go from here to here to here. So you narrow your life to a specific routine. You get stressed, you get angry, because you've robbed yourself from all your energy as soon as you wake up, like you said. And the only way to get that back is to sleep, in my opinion. Sleep again. Recharge that pineal gland. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say that there's that old saying, isn't there, as well? You are what you eat. I think that's a very true saying. You are what you eat. What you put into your body, isn't it? Yes, it's just interesting. I'm grateful, Jay. Really grateful for the knowledge that you're sharing. It's great.
Even a thing about mood foods, like you're saying, you are what you eat. You notice vegetarians are more calmer, stiller, where people that eat steak all the time are more aggressive. It's right there in front of your face. What you eat will control your psyche and your body, whether you like it or not. It's in plain sight. By the diets. So that's food and psychology.
Yeah. Wow.
No, it's a deep one, that one. Food and psychology and food. I mean, who would have thought them two are related, eh? I mean, that's one that not a lot of people put together, and it's definitely up there. I mean, it's when we talk about the psychosomatic or the soma, you know, the food is part of that because it affects your soma, which is your body, the intelligence of your body. Like you said, Jay, it's like when you fast, you take everything away, everything in your body becomes sensitive then again to what is good and what isn't, because we don't eat intuitively anymore. I think what we do is we're eating as we're marketed to by society and culture, because you're sitting there with family, for example, everybody's eating, you know, meat or whatever. Okay, I can say no, but what I'm saying is for some it's very hard not to, because you grew up in that environment. So it's hard to say no to not eating because it's like everybody's communing together, and you don't want to be the guy that says, "Oh, you know, I don't do this," and you then don't partake in the community or the familial activity. But what you can do is just like bring in your own food, right? Or just saying, "This is what I eat."
Well, even some people adjust. So if family always eats curry with meat, you might say, "Oh, I'll have a curry with vegetables." But then again, you still got all that vinegar, garlic, and everything just burning your insides. So
starch, the rice,
yeah, that's it. So
Yeah, and that's the thing that I spoke about the weekend, wasn't it? About cutting out all the pastas and the potato, stuff like that, you know. So, you know, I'm on my journey at the moment and stuff and all that. But yeah, I mean, I was noticing that in me. Every time I'd eat things like pasta, potato, anything starchy as well, I would just feel like I'm like that, just feeling like I go really heavy and really sleepy, and it's a horrible feeling, absolutely horrible. And since I've cut that out now, I don't seem to be getting that anymore. You know, I'm feeling a lot more alert, a lot more awake, you know, more energy. So just these little things, you know, the beginning of changing my diet, you know, it's helping me, you know. Yeah.
amazing.
And there's a lot more to learn. A lot more to learn.
Yeah, definitely. There's another quote here I want to share. I love sharing quotes because it stimulates the mind. So this one again from Archetypes. Anybody who wants to check out archaics.com, it's on there. It's fantastic. Jason Brescher's work on the simulacrum. So this one's from Tacitus and Annals of Imperial Rome. Men's minds become so sick they can only be relieved by remedies as severe as the infection.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's that. I think that's the same for the body as well. As much poison as you have is as much antidote you need.
Yep. And then the detox will be harder as well as a result, because you've poisoned so much. You go in the opposite way, the detox will be a lot harder. So the purging, the things that will come out, you know.
I remember the first time I tried to purge my mind of sorts. And what that was I would swear. And every time I swore, it would create disharmony in my mind while I would like space out for that split second while saying a swear word. Because if I knew a word to fill it, I would have said all these words, but I'll just say a swear word just to cover everything. So then it becomes useless, what I'm saying. So I'll be going about doing what I'm doing and I'll swear and I'd be like, and I'll say the swear word backwards. So if I said the B word, I'll end it with a B, I'll say it backwards. And then doing that process over and over again, it took a while and it was so frustrating. But once I'd done it, all the swearing just disappeared. And the need to swear. So it was kind of like an antidote to the poison that was coming out. I don't know if that works, but yeah, it's a different method of undoing things.
I mean, there's the physical, which is the body the body purge, which is done through the food and exercise and what you're feeding your body. And then you've got the mental, which is what you're feeding your mind day to day.
Thoughts, yeah.
And what do you think gave you the awareness to purge your mind like that?
Just being aware of myself in split situations. It's if I feel like I don't know if everybody comes to this conclusion, but you kind of want better for yourself. Just generally, it doesn't have to be anything too extravagant. You want a bit better, you want to progress, you want to build. I think it's natural to do so. So when you have that urge to sort of, you want a bit better, and then you start looking at something in your life that keeps repeating itself, that's having an effect. And especially when it's too much, even eating, if you're eating all the time, you're like, hold on, why am I eating so much? Let me stop eating and see what happens. And you'll notice it gets better, your life. Same with swearing. You're swearing all the time. Let me stop swearing. So that it was that awareness of watching as well the effect that the words have on other people when I use them. Because that's observable. When you start swearing, you even see people. There's many types of ways, but some people get happy and all that stuff, but it has a strong effect. And that weren't my message. They never understood what I said because I never said anything. I just kept swearing the whole time. In even funny, even in jokes as well. You know what I mean? It's not like it wasn't anger based. It was just using a replacement word. But I started fleshing out the words, and I started to really, and it's all in the words. When I started to refine the words I was using, I could navigate my life a lot clearer. Say, for example, you say, I want to do something in the future. I want to do something in the future. You keep saying the word future, it will never be done. If you say, I want to do something tomorrow, you change the word future to tomorrow, tomorrow comes. And even if you didn't do it that tomorrow, the next time you say tomorrow, tomorrow will come. So now your goal from the future, which never existed because that word don't exist, has come to a specific date because you've changed what you said. So there's importance in the words and spelling words. You create your own reality with the words you say and the words you tell yourself. So refining that is how to, I feel, is the easiest and most surefire way to refine your life. So through experience, obviously.
I also recently started to use my imagination because I was thinking the other day, again, going back to Jason, he's sort of talking about if you want to change your reality, you've got to hold the image of what you want in your head. If you can't see it, it won't come to life if you can't see it. So I think it's so powerful if you couple your idea of how you use words together with that imagination and how you speak about it. Because if you speak about it in a way that it's not going to happen, in terms of the tonality in your voice. So if the tone of your voice is, I'm gonna try and get that thing done tomorrow. Exactly. Or I'm you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to get this thing done tomorrow. So even in the way you're speaking, you're creating reality tunnel or not. So you're stuck in a loop until you create that reality tunnel using your imagination, i.e. picture what it is you want and then speak it and then act on it as well, because action is important to follow up with the action.
It's like a divine spark within, it's like me, the dream that I've had and stuff, it's allowing that to manifest itself into the world and being proud of what you've done. It's an achievement, especially when your heart's in the right place and you want to bring people together, to connect together and create an environment where we can all thrive together. So that's been my heart.
I'm having a memory of something that I rewrote in my life where that word should, never use it, because that it throws everything off. Should will never happen, could never happen because it's past. So I always say, I should fix this. I should fix this. And then when I noticed I said the word should, because it's been there for so long. That's why I'm still saying. That's why I'm still saying should. I turn it to I will fix this.
Yeah.
And the question came when, and then I fixed it there and then. And that was it. That was the end of it. So you just, by changing the words that were coming out and turning them into real physical, factual words,
yeah,
things happen. Things really do.
Mm.
And also, even when you're dealing with other people as well, I've noticed people are like, oh, should. And even if I say, you will do it, and they say, they will do it, they will question it. And they're like, they either say they're going to do it or they don't. It's either you do or you don't. There's a
yeah. And this is again, isn't it? You know, it's so either if you don't do it, then you know. There's, I was saying that I think you mentioned, Ahmed, about, you know, you go to the grave. Is it with a song in your heart? Is that right?
Henry David Thoreau.
Yeah,
most men and women live quiet lives of desperation and go to the grave with the song still left in them.
This is it. Yeah.
It really is, and that's the thing. It's like we all got this unique song, but imagine how many people die, live throughout their whole life and die, not singing anything unique about their life. They're just a copy of everyone else. There's nothing unique about what they've left. You know, they may have been a great husband, a great father. Yeah, all that's great. All that's great. But it's the matter of, what is it truly unique about you that's gonna make this world a better place than when you found it? You know, or more for yourself, really, because I think when you ascend the soul, when the soul ascends, when the soul it grows, in turn you affect everybody else. You heal, you affect the collective in a way. That's how you can positively influence the collective, because there's been so many influential figures out there that have had a positive influence on the collective. And that's what we want to do, like as individuals, is leave a positive influence, or at least continue a legacy and fulfill the legacy of those ancestors or those before us who couldn't finish that legacy. You know, to honor them, to honor the ancestors that we come from, to finish their work, because they left the door open for us, and it's up to us. Like, and most people don't honor that, and they would rather just go to university or whatever, get brainwashed, get indoctrinated, and just become a repeater and be part of the loop, which the controllers want us to be in, you know, and or should I say artificial X, you know, wants to be this sort of satanic artificial construct, archontic or archon, whatever you want to call it, label it as. It's the same thing. It's all evil in the end.
Separation.
Yeah. It's all about separation. Yeah. It's about separation and disunity from the divine, which you want to call God, source, creator, your soul, basically, you know, yourself, separation from yourself ultimately, and the inner child. So yeah, I mean, find that song, do the souls. Most people are not willing to do the work. And when you do, man, what a life, what a life, what a life unravels. Things that you never thought you'll see in your life, you'll start to witness, you know. And you know, it's like this: if you don't believe in miracles, then of course you won't see miracles in your life. But if you believe, not believe, but if you know in you there is some sort of miracle out there, then you'll start to witness miracles. If you know that life is more magical than what we've been told, then you'll start to see things beyond what we've been told to perceive the world to be.
Yeah.
So
something I want to add to that is even with me, I'm an energy worker. So changing the taste of water, changing the taste of drinks, changing the taste of food, changing how long food lives for, just from intention. It happens, we're here, it works. So there's clearly so many things that we haven't been shown or enlightened to. And it all works, it's all there. It's all in the systems of our bodies and nature and everything, all the divine, it's all there.
Our consciousness is able to affect reality, and that's the thing that they don't, because once you start creating your own reality that's unique to everybody else, I think that's when you're interrupting the program,
Yeah.
the pattern. That's
Yeah.
when you're breaking that separation program. So create something unique in your life that nobody else is able to experience, and then that's your soul is able to grow and fulfill its purpose. Because if we're not here to grow, then why are we even here? Why are we even here in the first place? If we're not here to grow, if we're just meant to be half asleep, living our lives, paying the bills, paying the taxes, being part of the system, oh, there's no point. There's no point in changing the system. Not to say there's any point in changing it. I'm saying start a new system, start something different, be innovative. That's what I want to be anyway. I want to kind of like get those juices flowing so that I can create something unique in my life experience, so that I can discover something new about this thing called reality, right? Because there's a lot, like you said, Jay, there's a lot about this reality we haven't been told.
Yeah.
About,
That's something I want to add as well is, if we're not here to grow or build, I'd like to hear from people if they've got a better sort of way or purpose, whether it be individual or collective. I'd like to hear, because I can't find much greater. Build, grow, or connect with the divine, connect with your true essence. That's where we're at.
Yeah.
That's why we keep learning. This is why we remember. Otherwise, we'd forget everything 24/7 and won't do nothing. So we're looking to build ourselves. And that's why we remember things from years ago, because it's meant to serve us always, to keep going, keep refining, keep adventuring, being the child in a way. And that's when you die, when you stop that, when you're like, okay, I want to be put in pretty much a prison cell, nothing to change. You decay from the inside out. Your mind stops, everything else stops. No new anything.
No new experiences. You'll have the same life experience over and over again. The Truman Show, right? I don't know if you've ever seen that film.
Yeah.
Truman Show. I mean,
Mhm.
it just repeats every day, just like a scripted drama. And that's the thing. What am I is someone scripting my life? Or am I going to create a new script here? Because that's the choice, really. Either these archaic programs run your life, right? Or you take the power into your own hands and start creating yourself, right?
It's made me just see, like, Truman Show is like the opposite of the Matrix in a way. What do you think? Just thought of that now. Matrix seems to be breaking the code, breaking free of it, and all these things start happening. All this magic, so to speak. Where the Truman Show is, you're in that NPC loop in the game, which keeps playing itself 24/7. Work, no work, see the same neighbors, and then.
Yeah, but eventually he breaks out of it, doesn't he?
Of course, because it's not frustrating. Imagine that. Imagine knowing you're filmed 24/7 and everything's basically scripted just for you to keep going around in that loop, and they're going to do anything they can to keep you there in pretty much a prison. It's natural instinct to break out of it. It's natural instinct to break out of it. So yeah. I've got a question for you, Amed, if that's possible. What is your view on the stars and the moon and all the astrology in relation to psychological and day-to-day people, persons, egos?
Well, I go back to the famous quote by Friedrich Nietzsche, which where he says, as long as you see the stars above your head, you lack the eye of knowledge. So, you know, the stars are a reflection of us. I look at it as in this way. Micro is like the Hermetic teachings, right? As above, so below, as within, so without. We go back to this timeless teaching, and that is, our body is Earth. Our stars, our planets are inside our mind. There's constellations going on in here, which means they're archetypes, there's zodiacal archetypes, there's symbols, it's all there. So when we look up at the stars, we're actually looking at a reflection of our own mind and the collective mind as well. So, you know, that saying, you are the sun, the moon, the stars.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what we are. We are the sun, the moon, the stars, everything. Once we start to look up to the celestial, they're just lights, figures of lights that's already inside us. We just haven't integrated them yet because we keep on looking at them as an external thing. So, for example, you're born, your birth chart is really important, right? Because your longitudinal and your latitudinal. I don't think I'm here by accident. I don't know about you. I don't think none of this is, there's no such thing. I don't believe in accidents personally, right? So you were born at a certain specific point in this realm, at a specific time that reflects your unique fingerprint of the divine, right? You are unique. And it's up to you. You've been given the hints because of the star alignments of where you're born. You're ascending. You're set. You know, you can use the Vedic or the Western tropical astrological zodiac to discover it through your birth chart. That's one way, because it will tell you about yourself. You know, there is a truth behind someone who's a Sagittarius or a Cancerian or a Piscean or a Libran, you know, because Libras, you speak to any Libra, they'll all tell you the same. They like balance in their life. They go crazy if they don't have a good balance of life. If life is not balanced in their life, they'll go crazy. They just go crazy. That's something that all Librans all have in common. Obviously, you have the negative traits of Librans, but that's because they're out of balance. But then that's another thing you can start to talk about when you study the negatives and the positives of each sign. So yeah, I mean, astrology, stars, sun, moon, they're all reflections of us. We just got to look at what they signify to us. I think once you know what they signify to you, you can use them to navigate this realm to your advantage. Because if you know there's certain planets that affect your sign, for example, if there's Mercury retrograding, you don't know why you're going through certain months in the year, and it's all going a bit topsy-turvy with all the technology in your you know, you're losing all these objects. Sometimes everything happens at once, and you know, all these you know, your car goes bust, your computer starts to go bust, all these things because there's a Mercury retrograde, for example, you know, and it's about overcoming them. So you've got to learn how to overcome these things with your own qualities, because you are all the planets. You are the sun, the moon, and the stars, right? So each planet, if you give it too much power, which is your own psyche, which is in you, right? If you give Saturn too much time, then Saturn, your time will dominate you. And the way your time, it will rule you. Right? But if you let the Jupiterian in you go, no, I want to bring my Jupiterian qualities, because it's actually it has a more benevolent quality to it, to counteract Saturn, which is Satan, which is time, which is, you know, in a way, Satan has many faces, but one of them is definitely time, our perception of time, because in the divine, we're infinite. right? We're infinite. It's just that we're here in the flesh suit, in this avatar, and we perceive time and we start to panic like we're running out of time.
God,
But in fact,
yeah.
we can never run out of time because we're immortal souls. So it doesn't matter. Even if you die, you continue your soul journey regardless. But when you get trapped in the paradigm of time, then you separate. There's a separation.
Yeah.
So once you understand what these planets mean, you start to integrate them into your own mind, into your own psyche. So then it's not, the stars are no longer above your head.
Stars are within.
The stars and the moon, the planets are within. And then you become the zodiac, because that's your job. Your job is to become the one, which is, again, Santos talks about it. It's like you become the 12 disciples. And then through the 12 disciples, you find the one, which is the sun, which is you, which is your soul, which is the inner child, which is the infinite divine creation that you are, you know.
So yeah, so I was going to say the archetypes, those archetypes, isn't it?
Those are the archetypes. 12 disciples are archetypes of your psyche, and they're the 12 archetypes of your psychology. So, you know, so for example, we're all friends here, we all have different signs. But I'm looking at the Cancerian quality of me by looking at Jay. And I'm looking at the Piscean quality of me by looking at you, Kelvin. So it's about, right, it's all external, internal.
It's like digesting in a way, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
How do you mean, like digesting?
Digesting, you like, if you're saying that, like, I know Capricorns are hard workers. So when you see a Capricorn working hard, you digest that quality and express it yourself. It's like you mirror, if you want it, if you're looking to it. Otherwise, you reflect yourself a different way. You look for another star sign within you. So I know a lot of people say that even with relationships, they always somehow go with the same star sign every time.
Really?
Yeah, there's some people that, oh, they always get Scorpions or something. And that's probably because...
Oh, all right. Not the same as them, you mean, but they get the same star signs coming in their relationships. Okay.
Yeah, because maybe even that's something they need to complete within themselves. So they're seeking it externally.
Got it.
Which is, it's a different topic. But what you were saying earlier was quite interesting. It reminded me of, it's, you know, the wolf story where there's two heads of the wolf and it's the one that you feed. Like that, with the Sagi within you, if you feed that, you'll get more of that. With the Cancerian, if you feed that, you get more of that, depending on how the astrological cycles work within you. So yeah.
It's like a clock. You're like a 12-hour clock. And there's the positive day clock, and then there's negative dark clock as well, right? Within those 12 within you. And it's how you're feeding each sign. If you're feeding the good wolf or the bad wolf within those signs as well.
Yeah, they both have a negative and a positive, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's all 360, right? You're 360 degrees. You're 3/6, right? The 369 that always comes up. I mean, like, we are full circle. To come full circle with ourselves, we have to fulfill all those individual 12 signs, those 12 hours in the clock. In our psyche and in ourselves. So my Piscean quality, you know, the quality of water, you know, the quality of Sagittarius, which is, you know, I'm 6 times Sagittarius, so I've got to really watch myself that I don't become too Saggy, because I am already too Saggy, if that makes sense. So I've got to, you know, my opposite is opposite of Sagittarius is Gemini. Right, Gemini lies in the opposite of the clock to me. My opposite is Gemini. So there's a lot of Gemini that will teach me about me. Because the Geminis have always taught me about discipline. I've had my martial art instructor, he's a Gemini. I've had my friend Walter, who was a Gemini. He was multidisciplinary, but he was really meticulous about the way he was activated every day. He would get up in the morning. He would have something to do, rather than lazying about and doing nothing, which a Saggy can you know, I think that we all can, as human beings, we can all have the lazy side of each of our sign, but it's about adapting the positive qualities of all the 12 disciples, so that we become whole in ourselves. So the 12 pieces are no longer 12, you become the 13th, which is the one, which is the whole, you know, the sun.
The sun behind the sun.
The sun behind the sun, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I've got to say about astrology and psychology for now. And there's so much to study. Yeah. You know, Alvin Boyd Kuhn, great writer. Samuel Onweor.
Oh, he's
great.
You know,
he's great as well. So yeah, look those guys up. I mean, whoever's listening to this, you know, really great books that will help you not ask any of us questions or anybody else for a while if you read them, you know. But yeah, I mean, there's so much. I mean, even after you read it, you still wanted to discover, you know, more and more, because there's so much depth to the inner mystery of us, of us. And yeah, there's so much to explore. So much to explore.
Everything I go through, though, well, more recent than not, is if anybody wants to heal, it's all about going back to the inner child within them. Because there's always a moment in our lives where we don't feel loved or some trauma happens. And if you're able to go back there and access the you before said trauma or rejection, and feel the way you was meant to feel then, when you shut yourself out and you split, so to speak. I've seen a lot of films where they do like the split personality thing. But if you're able to get back to that oneness of who and what you are before and feel that, you can bring that you back, awaken that spark within you, the warmth and the love that you used to have. You can have that. So that's one thing that it kind of comes back to. And I think I've heard you say a lot of times, and you've showed me, you've opened my eyes to the way children are raised and the love between the parents, and that stems throughout your whole life. That's how you're formed. All your choices are sort of made on how you're raised and the love you're shown. So that's a great eye opener to look into the anima and the animus as well, you were saying.
Yeah, the inner feminine, the inner masculine, the inner father, the inner mother. That's all within us as well. I always say, like, have a great relationship with yourself. Date yourself. You know, go out with yourself. You know, once you're happy with yourself, then you don't need that sort of insecurity. It's like, because if you're on the hunt to get a woman all the time, or, you know, man, if you're a woman, if you're on the hunt, then you're trying to fulfill the anima in you, which is already in you, but you're not relating to it at all. So you're trying to find it physically in somebody external to relate to your own anima. And that's the problem. Is you will repeat the same relationships over and over and not have had something different, because you haven't integrated that anima. And that also stems from how your relationship is to your mother. And the anima is so important, because the anima is responsible for creativity. And this is why the elite always target the family unit, and they target the women mostly, because they know if they get the women, they get the men. It's that simple, you know. And that's why the female is a prime target for them, because from her the whole family unit comes out. She bears the children. Father just puts the seed in there. She's the one that's bringing the seed into life, nurturing it, feeding it, giving it warmth. And if that mother's twisted and not giving it warmth, not feeding it properly, feeding it with jabs and feeding it with formula milk, and all this crap, then no wonder the society is in the shape that it's in, because the mother herself is the problem.
Yeah.
And this is why I always say, like, women need to take responsibility, you know, for their own actions, because you can blame the patriarchy all you like, but you raise the very men. Those first 7 years are pivotal. If you're not feeding those men, those boys, those baby boys, with the right nourishment, spiritual, mental, physical, you know, if you're not feeding it with all those right things, then they're going to grow up to become toxic men. And in turn, you know, they are, you know, they're going to affect the solar world that you live in. But it's all deception anyway. We know that. You know, we've discussed this in depth, but
it reminds me of that saying as well, is you see this lion, this strong lion that's going around, very strong, very proud, very strong. Who raised the lion? Wasn't his father, was his mother. And the same with men in society. If you get the strong ones who are complete, who raised them? Both parents, but the mother was always there, giving the love, the support, the attention, and the growth.
And the heart. She is actually the heart of the family. The mother is the heart. The father is the mind. That's my philosophy and outlook on it. If we're kind of looking at it in a symbolical way, is the mother's the heart, the father's the mind.
Would that make you the digestive system? You're eating the love from your mom and your dad, like, and the brain.
I mean, you kind of make you a digestive system until you also become a heart and a mind, you know.
Beautiful.
Because the child is not really fully formed until its later years. That's why the Rothschilds know 0 to 7. Give me someone 0 to 7, and I'll show you the man or the woman. I'll show you them. Just give me them between 0 and 7. This is why the mother's so pivotal, because 0 to 7 is the father's there later, after the child awakens the intellect, as Rudolf Steiner talks about. From this age of 7, Rudolf Steiner says the intellect awakens. That's why the Rudolf Waldorf movement in the Steiner schools, when children, they say don't awaken their intellect until they're 7. Because they need to integrate the dreamlike state so that their imaginations can be fully formed properly, and their dreamlike state, because that's where the magic happens. If that doesn't fully develop in the child, it will affect them later in adult life, where they can't access their creative powers. So that's why 0 to 7 is so important. You know, that is the most pivotal part. The father can be there to help the mother with the raising of the child, like providing for its security and her needs, so that she can, you know, keep making the home, making it natural, making it beautiful. But it's also, in part as well, it's a reciprocal cooperation between the mother and father, because the father also sometimes needs that connection, because there's sometimes mothers that will fully immerse themselves in the child, which is fair the first sort of year or two. You know, it's all about the child all the time, but not at the neglect. So there's always a balance as well to be struck in a family, and the mother really has a. But again, if the mother's integrated, her shadow, she's done the inner work, then the communication lines will always be open. Same thing with the father, of course. That's when the healthy, wholesome child will be born, and those are the kind of real men that will come out, and the real women as well, that we really need in the world, you know, right now, because they've been nourished. They're the ones that grow into the strong trees. Now, I'm not saying that you won't if you haven't had that, because then you have to then raise your inner mother and father, which is the anima and the animus, and you address those things. So it's never too late.
Yeah, I was going to say that as well. It's never too late.
Yeah.
It's still a work you can do, always. And for some people, it will come more quicker than others. That's another thing as well. So yeah, never too late.
Part of the soul's ascension, you know, part of the soul's development. And yeah, it's never too late. It's like once you awaken that within you, which is already divine, it's like that inner mother and father is there. Your feminine aspects of yourself and your masculine aspects of yourself are in balance. You can be in touch with your feminine side, which is the sensual side, but you can have a very healthy relationship with it. You know, women have great relationship with their emotions, where most of Western men, or most of men in general, tend to have an unhealthy relationship with their emotion. They tend to close the heart. There's no feeling in anything. Everything becomes robotic. You're like a cyborg. Most men, I don't know if you notice, most men are like cyborgs these days, you know. So it's like develop the emotional intelligence, because that emotional intelligence helps you relate to the woman, because that's the language of the woman. So if my inner feminine, right, I'm in touch with that sensual side and that creative flow, the creativity in me, the control of my sensual appetites as well, or should I say the discipline of my sensual appetites, then I develop a healthy relationship with the feminine, because I'm not about possessing anymore, right? Because the unhealthy masculine would just want to possess. You know, I watched something from Peaky Blinders today. I'm trying to remember where I saw it, but there's a scene. The detective is coming, takes the woman, kind of shoves her, tries to get the truth out of her, because he's investigating this murder case, and he's shoving her. And then what she did to disarm is kiss him in the lips quickly, and he's like, then he got disarmed because she used her feminine powers against him, you know, and disarmed him completely. He was being aggressive, and she gave him a kiss.
Yeah.
And he kind of moved away. He started wiping his lip with the handkerchief. You know,
aggression gone, right?
Yeah, aggression gone. So again, it's like it's knowing these feminine powers within you. And again, it's not a man-woman thing again. And this is where people get confused when we talk about the anima and the animus. It's nothing to do with male or female. It's nothing to do with gender. It's to do with an energy. It's a form of energy, energetic thought or psyche or psychic germ. I can't describe it. I'm not sure I'm using the best words for it, but it's a form of energy that is yin and yang, is positive and negative, but they're both good. It's just like, you know, we're using labels again, spelling words here, which is not right. But
it was like a balance, and to use it when you want to. If you like, for a man, if you want to dance.
That's the feminine, yeah.
You know, so, and if you can't dance, then you're repressing something within you, because all body and all man can dance. They can move, and a movement, simple movement, is a dance. Yep. So to tell yourself not to separate from yourself, and you'll be looking at other dancers because you've separated from yourself. So you seek externally.
Yeah, it's like the water. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, just a reminder really of me. There's been some times when I've stuck my headphones on, listened to a bit of music, and I'm just going like that with my head, you know, just feeling it, just, you know, going with it. Yeah, so yeah, and that's good.
That's the psychosomatic as well, because dance is a great form of expression. So is free-flowing martial arts. Anything that has a flow and a movement to it that the body can express itself in, you know, there's a beauty to that, because sometimes, not even that, most of the time language is not enough to express what's within you.
Never is.
So we have to use all these faculties, and the feminine, it goes beyond language. You see, language is masculine, Anything that has structure and form and order is masculine. Anything that's chaos and fluid and ethereal is feminine. Right? So it's the balance of the two, and you have to, because if you get too much chaos, then your life falls out of balance, because it would just be a mess, right? Because then also that's a feminine trait. Complete mess is feminine as well. Too much order, too much rigidity, too much discipline, too much and hardness, and that can make you so rigid and stiff that you have no movement in your life. You become so tense and so contracted. That's called what's that state where you're not moving anywhere? It's what's the best word for it? It's like
stagnant, void.
Yeah, it's staleness.
Yeah.
Staleness and stagnancy, and staleness is a masculine trait as well.
I think I want to add to some of the stuff you're saying, and something I've come to realize throughout the years, which is there is masculine and there's feminine, but there is also anti-feminine and anti-masculine. And when you were saying about the women is the chaos state, healthy woman it may look like chaos, but everything is growing. Like how nature, everything's growing, there's a tree, everything has sustenance, everything's there, everything is living. And then there's chaos as in destruction where everything is dying. Feminine and anti-feminine. And same with the masculine. There's masculine as in direction, focus, structure. But then if you're structuring different things, or you're structuring something and then structuring it to destroy itself, that's the anti-masculine, because you're not getting anywhere. You're not going in a direction. You're going back on yourself. Whereas feminine, the flow, and there's also no flow. So so I've always seen it as, even though there is masculine and feminine, there's also the anti-versions of them, which destroy them. And you can embody both the feminine and the masculine within, and also anti-feminine. So you can be masculine with anti-feminine, or you can be anti-masculine with feminine. There's so many different ways. And
well, which is what a feminist, those part of the neo-feminists do every day. They're in fact, they're hyper-feminized. So they've got they're anti-feminine. If you look at them, they're very masculine. These women, generally.
Yeah. But within them,
they're compensating.
Within them, that would be an anti-masculine.
Yeah.
Because in their masculine way, they need a direction for growth. So if they're using a direction for separation and destruction, then within themselves, that's what's happening.
It's like the extreme temperatures of fire versus the extreme temperatures of freezing cold. In the end, they're both the same thing. So whichever extreme you go to, you end up being both the same in the other of the extremes. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the most extreme heat versus the most extreme cold. In fact, it comes full circle, and they actually are both one and the same thing in terms of pain.
Yeah, yeah. If you touch both with a blindfold on, you won't know which one's which.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's the same thing with the anti-feminine, anti-masculine thing. Because if you go too extreme to both, you'll be either hyper masculine and hyper feminine are one and the same thing, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. Your body always finds a way to press the reset button once you get too far, though.
I hope so.
Yeah, I mean, think about it this way. I've seen from experience, I've seen a lot of women that are hyper masculinated and such. They sleep like women. Once all of their psyche dissolves, they're women again. Until they wake up and they build themselves back up to the persona. So that's ego, whatever you call it. But that's what it is. Once you get too much, that's like too much anger. You have to go somewhere. Your body shuts off, takes you somewhere else, and you have to calm down. Too much fighting, you're eventually going to stop. Too much of anything, you eventually do the opposite. Yeah. So rest seems to be the state which we're always brought back to after too much of anything. Yeah,
definitely. Yep.
Wow.
Speaking of rest.
it's a good one.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was just going to ask you something as well, Amed, about the superego. Could you explain more about the superego?
Super ego, Superman, supermarket.
That's the one.
As I like to quote from Jay. Let me define it a bit better here.
Okay.
So in the Freudian theory, right, it's the part of the mind that acts as a self-critical conscience.
Okay.
Reflecting the social standards that have been learned.
Okay.
So, for example, trauma, that's a social standard that you've learned. If you haven't healed that trauma, that becomes a social standard. So then you develop a persona based on that learned standard through your social sphere, your parents or your society. So there's a quote from Carl Jung, which I've pulled up here. He says, so long as the self is unconscious, so if your self is unconscious, it corresponds to Freud's superego and is a source of perpetual moral conflict. Here's a quote by Viktor Frankl, because it's really hard to give you definitions. It's the voice in you that tells you off all the time.
Judgment
all the time.
So
it's not judgment. It's not even judgment. It's more kind of like
is it the way
pointing
that
the finger.
Is it the way that you talk to yourself? Is that part of the superego? The way that you sort of catch yourself, the way that you may think about yourself in a negative way by the way that you put yourself down and things like that.
Well, it depends on again, the superego is always the one trying to put sort of you can't do this, you can't do that.
Right.
Where the id is more the id is more impulsive. That's the word I'm looking for. So the id is impulsive, where the superego is very repulsive.
Yeah. So it's basically sort of a negative, the negative sort of things that you
but
may.
It can be healthy if it's integrated properly.
Right.
In you.
It sounds like the tree of good and evil would be the superego, the judgment and separation, picking fractions, narrowing things, versus the id, which is wholesome, as is the tree of life.
So we're kind of using words to define parts of our psyche, right? Or parts of the separation within ourselves, right? So so I don't know if you guys have heard of Viktor Frankl. Really great philosopher. So he says man can no longer be seen as a being whose basic concern is to satisfy drives and gratify instincts, or for that matter, to reconcile the id, ego, and superego. Because that's what we want to do. We want to reconcile those three within our psyche, right? Nor can the human reality be understood merely as the outcome of conditioning processes or conditioned reflexes. Here man is revealed as a being in search of meaning, a search whose futility seems to account for many of the ills of our age, right? Because again, these things only popped up due to the collective trauma we have suffered, in our lifetimes through through the resets that we've had, right? So the ego and the superego, they work in mysterious and perverted ways sometimes, right? Because there are dangers. There's dangers in store from these things like the superego and the ego if we don't watch it. So the superego, like you said, is this form of separation. It's the separatist within us. It's also the hyper. It's the hyper thing as well. It likes to hyperize everything. If that even is a word, right? It
Hype,
likes to make,
hype things up.
it likes to hype things up,
Mm.
you know? So there's the superego hypes things up more than what it is anyway.
Yeah.
Makes it bigger than what it is to cause that inner conflict and separation.
It's like tunnel vision in a way as well, isolating things, separating things external to separate yourself as an experience. Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you both know what a neurotic is?
I've heard of the word, but if you
Drug?
want to break that down a little bit more.
So the psychotic blames the world for their problems.
Okay.
The external, the neurotic blames themselves all the time for their problems. Too much, in fact. That's what makes you neurotic. But in a way, neurotics are a bit more healthy than psychotics because they don't externalize their problems. They don't blame the outside world. But there's a fine balance, you see. So, so when you lose the voice of the conscience within, okay, because in a way, the superego can be the voice of your conscience.
Yep. Trickery.
But instead, it separates. So you got to, again, it's like the conscience being the echo of the moral universe, okay, the moral divine, right? The moral God, what we perceive as what is right from wrong, what is
just
and what is unjust. So it's the just part of us. It's the part of us that has the conscience. It's the conscience, right? So when you become a self-mutilated neurotic, okay, you start to rely on the voice of the superego, which is the obedient servant of the collective. And that's what the superego is, ultimately, according to Jung. It's the collective's voice. That's what the superego is in you.
I've seen something by your.
I think I'm getting to the point of it now.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that make sense?
As well, if someone's divided from within, then it's easy to take control of them.
Yep.
That's another thing which I can see. So you're talking about collective.
So the superego is this, again, remember what I said about what Freud defined it as? It's about your societal, your it's the part of you formed by the society. That's what the superego is, ultimately.
Okay.
That's the definition of it. If you're trying to refer to something else in terms of the separation, that's to do with the separated shadow and the trauma. This is a problem when we use these terms in psychology, Jay. So because you've got to find the right definitions for the parts of you. So the collective causes separation because the collective doesn't give you a voice. It's the one going, you better watch yourself. I want to eat. No, we are in an important meeting. You can't eat because everybody else is here. It's the collective voice. It's the voice of the collective.
I think I've gotten to part of the root of it, which is a superego is formed when you accept a lie. And you can't tell yourself a lie. A lie has to be told to you for you to then believe it. And once you believe it, you separate yourself because you know it's not true. And that in turn starts ruling your life. Like, oh, if you eat too much, you're going to get fat, or don't cross the road. It could be fed to you any way. And it feels like that becomes now a voice in your head that now keeps telling you, oh, because you believe it the once, the lie, and it will repeat itself. Don't go out, you could be hurt. Or don't go in the rain, you're going to get wet. And then it will start telling you things, like you're saying, it will suppress you. It's a form of fear as well.
Yeah, because society suppresses you ultimately.
Yeah.
Think about it. Like, even though there's a collective, that collective is creating a separation between you and your true self and the divine. So this is what I'm saying. The moment that the collective has a voice, that separation is already created within you. Because your mom and dad put a voice in you from society. Through society.
Yeah.
They got
So
to
then
avoid
the super ego develops as that voice in your head. Does that make sense? So it ultimately it is that voice of separation, because the society is telling you what to do and trying to define you when you're there trying to figure out who you are, right? And the super ego keeps getting in the way because it becomes a like I think it becomes a form of self-mutilation. The super ego becomes that. It becomes a form of self-mutilation in your own sight, in your own mind.
It starts from when you
and it starts from a lie.
Yeah, and I think it's when you agree that you don't know yourself. So someone said, if you say, I know who I am, and then someone says, no, you don't. This person don't know who he is. This person don't know who he is. You don't know who you are. And if you accept that, your life turns to chaos. I think that moment.
Yep. And also the collective is also is the terrible mother, is the chaos of the feminine as well. Because the collective don't know themselves. Because they're a collective. Of course. There's no individuals.
It's in the name, yeah, I get it.
Do you understand? That's why it's a melting pot of all mishmash and chaos. So then that's the super ego. It's the collective voice, which really doesn't have any say because it's the opinion of what standards should be. And it's like, what standards? By whom? By what? Satan? By what? Standard. Who told you what standard is standard? You know, who told you what's moral and right and wrong? You're the collective, but everyone's going to have a different opinion in the collective. Because you know, it's like go and shop at a supermarket. I love the supermarket metaphor, because the supermarket sells crappy food, and it's the supermarket in your brain going, yeah, go and shop here. This is all good for you. It's good. They'll tell you it's good for you. They'll tell you, whoa, great food. Get this brand. You know, they'll advertise it to you in some sort of billboard and make it and use divine symbology to sell it to you that will affect your psyche to buy it, right? Which is what the super ego does. It's a separatist from yourself.
It's superficial as well.
Superficial, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and ultimately mind control in itself, isn't it? Again, another form of mind control.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got to watch your super ego, because really the super ego is the collective voice when it should be your conscience.
Yes.
Your conscience should lead your life, not the super ego, which is the collective voice of society posing as your conscience, telling you what's right and wrong in the world.
So
giving you the standards.
I feel like that super ego comes in to replace God in your life.
Yeah.
Because if the divine is do, grow, whatever, and then you start listening to society, now you're trying to tell yourself how you function. You're trying to tell yourself how your heart beats. You're trying to tell yourself these things and you don't have the knowledge for it. So that's the separation. You separate yourself from the oneness of yourself, of just being, breathing, living, moving, touching, feeling, tasting. And then when you get told what to do and you accept it, it comes to accepting as well. Then that's what happens. The super ego is born, and it's a fraction of you within yourself. Oh, quite dangerous. It's like having your enemy within you.
Well, the enemy is within. Always has been, always will be. You know, that's the thing. Once that's the whole point of this inner work. Because once you've dealt with that inner enemy.
Summarized, the super ego is the anti-you.
It is, because it's the collective.
Which
and is anti-individual, and it's anti-individual.
Yeah.
Which is, you can't be an individual with the super ego there leading your life. That's why you've got to keep it in check. You know, because it's the part of you that cares about what other people think. That's also your super ego. How you're perceived by others in society.
Yeah.
That's your that's the inner judge, the one that's judging you inside, going, oh, someone's watching me. Or you see what I mean? It's that part of you, which is actually creating a separation in yourself when you should give a damn what other people think. And also, it's what we refer to as God, because there's a problem when we use the word God, because a lot of people have different definitions of what God is. I'm just, for our listeners, for the sake of our listeners, because that inner child is your access to it, to the infinite source or divine, all-knowing monad, right? Yeah, exactly. So it's like, once you access that inner child, there is no, see, the child doesn't think about God. Think about this. It's a concept that we adults make for the children as they grow up. Tell me one child that comes up to you and tells you the word God.
It's separation. You start looking for things outside.
Exactly. That's what religion creates, is this externalized God, looking for God outside when God is within. The kingdom of God is within. And so again, it's the knowing of yourself to know God. Because once you know yourself, you know what God is. You not to say you are God, because it's so weird. It's like trying to describe infinity in a fractal, which is you.
Interesting.
Because we are fractals in this avatar, you know, and the unconscious consciousness itself can be perceived as God, because everybody has consciousness.
The dream state, we all dream. In that dream state, anything can happen, and you get that every single day.
Especially when you start to control your dreams as well.
I love that.
Become aware and conscious within your dream that you're dreaming, and then you're like, oh yeah, let's go here, let's go there. You know, but that's why I remember as a kid I used to do that. When in adulthood, it's much harder to become aware in your dreams, because we've got to hear that alarm in the morning. We're not having a lion as we did when we were kids, you know. You're not in that relaxed state where everything's provided for you and the world is secure. As adults, we have to go and survive. And did you see what I mean? So those affect even our dream state and their ability to have a wholesome rest even.
I kind of want to say it's kind of the opposite for me. When I have an alarm on, it's easier for me to lucid dream, because I'll set my alarm early. So when my alarm goes, I press snooze. But I press it fast enough to sort of be half dreaming, half not dreaming. And in that state, I can remember what I dreamed about before. And then I'll dream again, and it goes again. I press snooze. And because you're in between states already, waking and sleep, you start to see your own dreams. So obviously, a lot of people, what they do, they set their alarm and they wake up with the first one. But I always snooze mine quite a few times till it gets to a specific time. Then I'm awake, no matter what. So there's ways to access lucid dream.
I actually have that experience as well when I snooze.
Yeah.
Sometimes what I'm trying to say is the shock of the alarm. If you've really got to be at an important time and you have to get up, it's the shock of waking up straight away, like the military, you know, when they come in screaming at you, time to get up, you know, that sort of sort of mad, frantic get up, that shock, which is a trauma really in a way, because you're kind of like, you've gone from the most restful state to the most awake state of disorientation and panic.
This is where your id is in its purest, because you haven't even had time to come in to be conscious. You haven't had time. And that's where meditation is a way of bringing your conscious even more present within the body.
That's the beauty of meditation, which can be achieved through stillness and breath work, and sitting there just in the dark and just listening to your breath and putting your attention on there, not on your thoughts, or in movement or dance, as we were talking about earlier. You know, through movement, it's the thoughtless action of movement or stillness, whichever you choose. Whether you want to go masculine or feminine with it, it's up to you. So, but they both are great methods. For some, movement works better. For others, stillness works better. You just got to find what meditation is for you. Yeah, like you said, it's really, really, really cool meditation.
I was just going to add a little something onto the end of that. you know, what you explained about the superego there, Amed, and that was, you know, the Matrix film came up, and there's a bit where Morpheus says about it being like a splinter in your mind. It's like a splinter in your mind.
It is. It is a splinter. The voice of the collective is a splinter. It is. It really is. And we're all connected to it.
Very powerful symbology there, isn't there? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's truths within the Matrix, and there's not so.
Yeah.
You know, the mere fact that we live in this sort of machine alien type dominated thing when you wake up in the real world. I don't see it that way personally. No. You know, which is the only part of the Matrix that I didn't agree with, but that's just my opinion. So
yeah, but there's some great things you can take from it, you know, as for symbols, just for symbols, you know, symbology wise. And that's what came up, the whole thing. And another thing as well, actually, is about, you know, you said about the movement, you know, about the great in dance and stuff like that. You know, going back to the Joker, you know, I remember that bit where the movements and the moves he does, especially after when he came off the subway after killing those 3 guys, and he goes running into the toilets, and he's in there and he starts doing all these dance, you know, beautiful, absolutely beautiful movements and stuff. And for him, I mean, you could see it through the film. These times that when he went through the film and he would just lose himself in his dance and stuff. He was expressing himself, because you could see a man that was oppressed by so much crap in his life. You know, it's a very powerful film. Very powerful film.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't excuse the fact that he killed those 3 men because he got triggered. And that's something that shows about the Joker's character. You know, was it Alfred? Was his name Albert or Alpha? I can't remember his name now.
Yeah.
But it shows that he's not integrated his shadow.
Yes.
We were so triggered by those guys. He had to
that's
kill
right.
them.
Yeah.
So it shows a symptom of the mental health of somebody like him.
Absolutely.
But the expression, for sure, the expression of dance. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's a very, very, very powerful film, you know, because there's so much you could take away from that film, you know. But again, the shadow. And what happened in the end, you know. It showed that side definitely within the film, but also some other sides of it, you know. It's a very film full of psychology.
Definitely. Yeah, maybe a subject matter for another podcast, another day.
Wow, it's been a absolutely fascinating discussion tonight. You know, it's been amazing, and I'm really glad that Jay, you've been able to join us, you know, this evening. And I would love to have you back again, you know, because it's just beautiful, you know, to have you here and to share your heart as well. And you know, I'm looking forward to the next one. Looking forward to the next time you can come and share more stuff, you know. So thank you, Jay, for everything you've imparted tonight, you know, for the viewers. Thank you.
Thank you. Hoping the viewers got something from it.
Always.
More to come as well. So
lovely. And again, Amed, thank you for tonight as well. And it's an honor to have you, Jay. And you know, hopefully we can all come together again soon and do this again, you know, on some other topics. So thank you both for tonight. And just hope viewers get something out of this tonight. And the other thing I was going to say as well, there'll be links underneath again, you know, for Amed's Planetary Intelligence channel. There's a link underneath for Jay's website about the alkalinity stuff. What's the name of it again, Jay?
The Human Remedy.
The Human Remedy. That's it. The Human Remedy. Yeah. And then for me, I'll put about 3 links underneath, I think, as well, for basically on the ego, and obviously about the self as well, and stuff like that. I think Alan Watts did a lovely cover about Carl Jung about the ego and stuff, and that's, I'll put that underneath, and a couple of other ones as well about the self. So yeah, hopefully people will get something from those links underneath as well. So yeah, thank you once again, and much love to you both, and honored to have you here, and looking forward to the next one. Much love.
Okay.
Much love.
See
Thank
you
you.
again. Much love.